Okay. So before that, a quick formal introduction on my end. My name is Mohammed Shoaib, as I am a cybersecurity trainer certified from EC Council. Okay. EC Council is the leading organization for cybersecurity certifications. Okay. And the course, the demo that we are going to be taking today is on Certified Ethical Hacking version 11. This is the latest version of the course from the EC Council. And again, this is a foundational course which covers the very basic to intermediate and advanced level concepts on the core foundational topics of ethical hacking. Okay, now as the course name itself says, this is on becoming a certified ethical hacker. Now let's try to understand what is a hacker, what is hacking, or what is ethical hacking. Okay, so most of the people confuse these two terms and they think they are one and the same, but hacking is very much different from ethical hacking, guys. Okay, so when we talk about hacking on one hand, this is the procedure of trying to gain access to information systems. Okay, now these information systems could be anything. They could be as small as a mobile phone to as big as a web application server or a database or whatever it is. Okay. Now, hackers try to gain access to these information devices without the consent of the person owning those systems. And once you get access to the devices, they can steal the data, destroy the data, or just sell the data on the dark web. Okay. And sometimes hackers also do that just for fun. Okay. They can steal and destroy the data just for fun as well. Okay. Now, if hacking seems such a malicious job, why do we have a concept called ethical hacking is the second question. Because ethical is something which is completely legal. Okay, and how can hacking be legal? That's the main contradictive question. Okay, so when we talk about ethical hacking, on the other hand, this is a procedure of trying to find vulnerabilities. Okay, a vulnerability is nothing but a flaw, a weakness, or a loophole in the information system. And using these same weaknesses only, hackers try to take advantage of the system. Okay, or try to get access to the system. Now, your job as an ethical hacker would be to find these vulnerabilities with the consent of the organization. So you work hand in hand with the organization and find the vulnerabilities and report them back. Once the vulnerabilities are reported, the organization applies the appropriate patches for them to close the vulnerability there. And once it closes, hacker does not have any pathway anymore to get or to exploit the system. Okay, so thereby with ethical hacking, you're trying to increase the security of the organization rather than causing any harm. Now seems very simple, guys, in phrases, but depending on these two terms, we can categorize the various types of hackers as well. Okay, so basically, when we talk about types of hackers, there's three kinds. There's someone known as a gray hat hacker. I mean, firstly, black hat hacker, then gray hat hacker, and then white hat hacker. Excuse me. So when we talk about black hat hackers, these people are also known as the cyber criminals who perform hacking for their own benefit, and they do this without asking for consent or permission. On the other hand, or on the other end of spectrum, you have someone known as a white hat hacker. Now, white hat hackers are also known as ethical hackers who perform hacking just for getting or finding the vulnerabilities and reporting them. And this is done in accordance with the laws and policies of the organization. So you work hand in hand with the organization, take permission from them, and then perform your ethical hacking practices. Okay, ethical hacking, or you can also term it as penetration testing, trying to find out vulnerabilities in the organization and giving out those vulnerabilities back to the organization itself so that they can apply the patches for it. Now, in between black hat hackers and white hat hackers, you also have someone called as gray hat hackers. Now, these people are also called as bug bounty hunters. Okay, so these people are someone who perform hacking like a black hat hacker. They don't ask for permission, but once they find a vulnerability, like a white hat hacker now, they report it back. But one condition over here is they don't do it for free. Okay, so once they find a vulnerability, they try to charge some amount for it. Okay, so they try to take money reward, try to take a reputational reward, anything which benefits their career for finding that vulnerability and disclosing it rather than taking advantage of it. Okay, so you could call them as freelance hackers as well. Okay, now these are three basic category of hackers: black hat, gray hat, and white hat. And all these three are the professional types of hackers. Okay, now the procedure that they follow to perform hacking or ethical hacking is called as hacking cycle. Okay, again, various organizations categorize these steps into various numbers, but if I had to summarize it up, there are 5 important steps of hacking or ethical hacking. First step is known as information gathering. Now, some companies also call this step as reconnaissance or footprinting. Second step is known as scanning. It can also be referred to as enumeration. Third step is gaining access. Fourth step is maintaining access. And the last step is reporting or clearing traces. Now, the reason why I've specifically mentioned all over here in the last phase is because that is where it makes all the difference between a white hat hacker and a black hat hacker. If you are a white hat hacker, you try to report all the vulnerabilities and the steps that you have taken to find those vulnerabilities and submit it to the organization. If you're a black hat hacker, obviously you're not going to report anything, but you try to remove all the evidences. Okay, so you try to delete all the log files, delete all the footprints that you have created, and clear the traces so that you cannot be found again, or you cannot be caught. Okay, and that is known as clearing traces. Now, let's briefly discuss each of these steps one by one, so you have a clear picture of what we're going to be discussing in the course. Okay, so the first, again, before that, any questions for anyone, guys? I'm so sorry to inform this. If you have any questions, or if you have any doubts, feel free to interrupt me at any certain point and ask your questions. Okay, so do not hesitate to ask your questions. Yeah, okay, Paras has said no, Mahesh has said no. Perfect. Madhusudan or Ramu, any questions? Okay, assuming no one has any questions at the moment, now let's briefly discuss each of these steps one by one, guys, so you have a clear picture, okay, of the whole course. So the first step, as I've informed, is information gathering. Again, as the name itself says, information gathering is nothing but trying to gather as much information as possible about the target passively. What I mean by passively is that you try to gain this information from other third-party organizations. Okay, so for example, if we have a target like www.wipro.com, now we try to gather information about wipro.com domain from other third-party websites. Okay, now the main question is, Shoaib, what kind of information are we talking about over here? And this is the information. Okay, so we try to gather information such as the IP addresses or the range of IP addresses used by that specific domain first. Okay, so what is the exact public IP of the server which is hosting the website www.wipro.com? Along with that, if it is not a singular server, if they have secondary servers as well, what are the IP addresses of those primary and secondary servers? Then who is required to understand who hosted the website, which DNR did they go? DNR stands for domain name registrar. So your websites like GoDaddy, Big Rock, all these people are DNRs. Okay, they host a website for you and they register a domain name for you. Okay, so we need to find out who registered that website for them. When was it registered? When was it last updated? When is it expiring? All that information is known as whos information. Then comes DNS records, understanding what DNS records are there in their DNS servers. So DNS servers do a job of resolving an IP to a domain name and vice versa. Might sound very technical, guys, but DNS servers contain the whole organization's info. Okay, and it is a very important part of information gathering. Then comes employee details, such as the contact numbers or their email IDs or the usernames or publicly leaked passwords and whatnot. Okay, then finally domain names, subdomains, operating system information, whatnot. Okay, so if I show you a very basic example, I can just go to a browser. Let me open up a browser very quickly. And in the browser, I can search for a domain such as hunter.io. This is a website which I've shown in the previous demo as well. But again, if this is your first time, hunter.io is a website which is capable of capturing all the email addresses for any organization. So whatever emails of a certain organization got leaked on the internet, hunter.io does a job of streamlining all that information in one singular location. Okay, so if I search for Wipro, for example, as you can see, it gives me the Wipro's results. So there are 1300 results also. And these 1300 results are the leaked email addresses of the employees of Wipro. So there's something called Chaya Ganapati, Makbul, Stephen, Joseph. These are the working emails of so-and-so employees of that organization. Again, just to give authenticity, they also mention the source from where that email was leaked and at what date it was leaked. Okay, so just to show you that this information is completely authentic. Now, hackers or ethical hackers can use these email addresses to perform certain advanced attacks, such as phishing attacks and whatnot. Okay, another example, as I've mentioned, DNS info. For that, you can go to a website called DNS Dumpster. Okay, and this website is capable of giving you all the DNS information for any organization. So if I search for again wipro.com, wipro.com, and if I click on search, as you can see, it first tells us the geolocation of the Wipro servers, how many DNS servers it has, and what are the exact IP addresses, the public IPs of the servers. Now, these IPs are very important for us in the coming phases, guys. So this website gives us the complete information of all the IP addresses, of all the domain names, all the subdomains of Wipro, and so on. Again, one more very important thing, it gives the complete network topology of the organization. So as you can see, it shows you what all available, I mean, what all the servers are available with what IP addresses and how they are connected to one another. Okay, this is clear, guys. Now, proceeding further, after this, after information gathering is done, after you have gathered all this information from various sources, then you go with the next phase, which is scanning. Okay, scanning is where, now scanning or enumeration is where you try to get some extra information which you could not get in the information gathering phase. Now, and the main difference between scanning and information gathering is that in information gathering, you're gathering all the information from third-party sources. You're trying to achieve it from other third-party organizations. In scanning, we try to get the information directly from our target. So we use some special tools for performing various kinds of scanning and get information such as active devices in the organization, the open ports on those devices, and the services running on them, and the vulnerabilities. Okay, so as I've mentioned, trying to gather much more information about the target by making active connections. So again, it is categorized into three parts. There's something called as network scanning, there's something called as port scanning, and finally vulnerability scanning. In network scanning, you can try to find out all the active devices in a target network. So whatever target organization it is, on that target network, what all devices are active and running. Then on those devices, you can try to find what ports are open and what services are running with port scanning. After that, finally, we perform vulnerability scanning to find out on those services, are there any weaknesses that hackers can attack on. So during this phase, we'll be using very important tools called as Nmap and Nessus. So in an organization as well, they use the same tools in real-time scenarios. You can search for the website called Enable Nessus, and you get the first link. And as you can see, this is the tool that is used in organizations. So this is to find your vulnerabilities and disrupt attacks. Okay, again, a very important tool, and it's a very pricey tool as well, around $4,000 for 1 year subscription. But again, they also have a trial version of this for understanding and learning how to run the tool. So in organizations as well, they run the same tool for Nessus. So again, I have the same one installed on my system as well. Let me show you how it looks like. Oh, 1 second. https:// yeah. So again, I have this readily installed on my system. I'll be showing you how to install this in your laptop or your machines as well and perform this vulnerability scanning. Let me log into my portal. And now this is how your vulnerability scanning tool looks like. It has a few set of templates to perform basic or advanced scan, malware scan, cloud scan, web application scan. All these are automated scanning methods. Okay, using these automated techniques and using this advanced tool, we can try to find automatically all the vulnerabilities in a local organization, all the weaknesses. And once you scan a system or a network, it shows you the vulnerabilities depending on the impact. So as you can see, it categorizes all of them. This is your dashboard where you can get all the vulnerabilities on whatever devices you scan. And depending on the impact, it categorizes the vulnerability. So there are 5 levels of each vulnerability. Again, in a real-time scenario, this is how you scan for it. Okay. Once you know that there is a vulnerability, then you go into the gaining access part where you try to perform penetration testing, where you try to manually attack on these vulnerabilities. Okay. So all this is automated process. You don't have to do anything. You just give the IP address and you perform the scanning. And then once you get the vulnerability, on top of that, you try to find out how you can manually attack and get remote access. And that is where comes the next phase, gaining access. Okay. Again, it's a very vast concept, covers a huge variety of topics. And these are the topics as follows. So the first thing that we'll learn is system hacking. How do you try to crack or bypass a Windows operating system password? Okay. So if you have a Windows OS, doesn't matter which one, Windows 7 or Windows 8, Windows 10, 11, does not matter. If you have a Windows OS and if it is a locked system, how do you crack the password of it? Or if you're unable to crack it, how do you bypass it without entering any password and get access to the internal files? Is what we learn in system hacking. Then comes malware attacks. Malwares are nothing but malicious softwares, and 90% of the cyber threats happen due to malware attacks. So we'll practically learn what malwares are, what are the different categories of them, such as viruses, worms, trojans, spyware, rootkit, whatnot, how we practically create them, and how do we defend our systems from these malwares. Then there's a bonus concept called malware advanced. Okay. Now this is a concept which is again just a bonus concept where you learn how to create your own malwares using Python program. Okay. Again, you don't have to learn Python separately. Whatever resources are required for that will be shared. Okay. And in case if you're a developer, this is a very good topic for you, a stepping stone for you to perform malware development or to learn malware development. Okay. Then comes network penetration testing, where we learn all the common network attacks, local intranet attacks, such as sniffing attack, man-in-the-middle attack, denial of service attack, hacking Wi-Fi routers, getting the passwords from Wi-Fi routers, and cracking wireless networks, and so on. Okay. Using these attacks, attackers can capture your usernames or passwords or analyze the traffic that is flowing in a local network and get your web information. Then comes social engineering, where I'll show you how hackers create fake websites. So how do they create fake login pages, whether it be social media page or bank login pages or whatever it be. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, bank login pages or social media pages or whatever. How do hackers create an exact replica of those pages? And how do they get your credentials from that? And how do we prevent these kinds of attacks? How do we distinguish between a safe page and a fake page? All that we learn in social engineering. Then comes web application pen testing, where we learn all the common website vulnerabilities. So your web developers sometimes here and there make mistakes, and that causes websites to have weaknesses in them. So a few weaknesses are such as SQL injection, cross-site scripting, broken authentication, file upload, whatnot. So using these vulnerabilities, hackers can get access to the backend databases, the user data, or they can shut down the websites, deface the websites, and so on. Okay, or they can also get the remote connection to the web server from the front end itself. So how do these attacks are performed and how do we prevent these attacks is what we learn in web application. Then comes vulnerability assessment, which is the manual testing. So once you get a report from the Nessus tool, automated scanning tool, from that report, how do you initiate the attack and how do you get reverse connections of the system is what we learn in vulnerability assessment. Okay, again, and this will be using a very important tool called Metasploit framework. That is a tool that is used in organizations as well to perform manual pen testing. Okay. Then finally comes hacking mobile phones, where we learn how to perform Android pen testing. How do you create a malware for Android, and using that malware, how do you get a reverse connection of that phone, of that specific Android phone over the internet? Then after gaining access is done, then we go with maintaining access, where we try to maintain a persistent connection. What I mean by persistent connection is that even if the user restarts his system or shuts it down and starts after a very long time, how do you still get access to his system and how do you still download his data is what is maintaining access. Okay. Then finally comes reporting or clearing traces, where I'll show you how you can generate a report or how you can remove all the evidences. So the whole course is designed in such a way where you learn the scenario of the ethical hacker as well as a black hat hacker. Okay, so I think 1 second, guys, some background disturbance on my end. So we learn all the attack techniques as well as the defense techniques. So in other terms, this is also referred to as blue teaming and red teaming. Blue is where you defend your systems, red is where you try to attack the systems. Okay, again, the whole course is designed in such a way, whereas 20-40 ratio. For the first 20 minutes in the 1 hour, we'll discuss the theoretical parts, and the rest 40 minutes, we focus on the practical implementation. Now, there's a few prerequisites as well, which are included in the course itself. Now, I guess you have seen this document earlier, if I'm not wrong. I guess it has been shared with you. 1 second, guys. Just a minute. Yep. I hope the screen is visible now. So this is the whole course content, guys, as you can see. So I've not listed out all the topics in the presentation, but if you wanted to get a clear picture of all the topics, you can take a screenshot of this. Okay, right. Now, again, as I've mentioned, there's a few prerequisites as well. Since not everyone is from the computer or technical background, so the few first introductory classes we'll have is on basics of networking, Linux, and Windows commands. Okay, we need to understand what IP addresses are, what are IPv4, IPv6, what is a DNS server, what is a DHCP server. These basic networking concepts is what we'll go through first. Then we learn Linux and Windows commands. Linux specifically, because we'll be using a very important operating system called Kali Linux. Okay, so this is a Debian flavored OS. Okay, Debian is again a part of flavor of Linux, you could say. Okay, the reason why we'll use this is because this comes pre-installed with all the penetration testing tools. Okay, your Windows operating system does not have those tools. Okay, so that is why we need to install the Kali Linux. Now, the main question that most of the students ask is, sir, we have Windows on our system. How do we install Linux separately? So for that, we learn something called virtualization. So we have a tool called VMware for that. Inside this VMware application, you can install multiple operating systems at the same time. So like that, I have my Kali Linux, as you can see. And once I power this on, What this will do is this will utilize some hardware configurations from my base machine and run on top of that. Okay. So on my Windows 11, as you can see, I'm running an application called VMware, and inside this VMware, I can run my Kali Linux. So basically, how do we set up this lab environment and how do we install this and how do you run this is what we'll also learn during our introductory classes. So first we learn networking, then we learn basic Linux and Windows commands, and then we learn how to install our lab setup. So you can practically implement all the concepts that you learn. And again, this is the Kali Linux, as I've mentioned, and these are the set of tools that come pre-installed with it. As you can see, for information gathering, for web application attacks, for password attack, Wi-Fi attacks, and whatnot. Okay, so these tools are not available for you in Windows operating systems. They are available pre-installed in Kali, and that is why it is very necessary for us to install this OS. Again, pretty simple, no rocket science, very simple to install the virtualization setup, VMware, and Kali OS. It just takes max to max 20 minutes or so. Okay, so yeah, that's that, guys. A basic demo on for you to understand what the course is all about. Again, the course is for 35 days. We'll have classes from Monday to Friday every day for 1 hour. I guess the timing is 8 p.m. itself. So we'll be taking the first class of networking in tomorrow's session. Okay, so if you're interested, you can join the class tomorrow itself. Okay, you can join that also. You can check out how the classes are going. You can access that also as a demo for the first networking class. Okay, and yeah, that's that. 1 second. Yeah, along with that, to mention again, the course price is around 8,000 rupees, guys. That comes inclusive of all the recordings, of all the materials, of again soft copy materials. I'll be sharing the PDF document that comes officially from EC Council for the whole courseware. So I'll be sharing all the recordings. DurgaSoft uploads all the classes that we take, all the live sessions to the Google Drive. So you get the link of the Google Drive, the recordings for lifetime access. You get the PDF materials, you get the notepad files, the notes that I have specially designed for the course. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Again, all of this is inclusive of 8,000 rupees. Again, I teach for a lot of institutes, guys. No one is offering at that price range. The same course, same content. Again, I don't want to name the institute, but I teach for one of the institutes in Bangalore, and for the same course, they're charging 25,000. So this is like 1/3 of it. So trust me. Again, for them also, I am only the instructor. So again, this is the cheapest anyone can provide the course for. Again, might increase the fees later on, but for the time being, since DurgaSoft is getting started with cybersecurity, this is the price it is at right now. And along with that, I also share my personal number. So just in case if you have any queries or doubts or anything, you can contact me or text me on WhatsApp for your queries or doubts. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Any questions on your end, guys? That's it on my end. So if you have any questions or so, you can ask me. Mahesh, Paras, Madhusudan, anyone. Right.
Yes, sir. I have some doubt.
Yeah, sure, Mahesh.
Okay, is it audible?
Yeah, you are audible, Mahesh. I can hear.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, only like in the other context, I like with the real-time scenario. So basically, we'll be depending on the other like the service providers, like as you like just shown some of the applications. Or like those applications will be in the commercial manner with the in the
Exactly,
level.
yeah. So whatever tools I'll be showing Paris, those are the same tools that I used in commercial in real-time scenarios. It's the Kali operating system, the tools like Wireshark, Burpsuit, Nmap, this Nessus application. All these tools are the ones that are used in organizations in real-time scenarios. So everything that I've shown you is completely practical based. There is no different setup in the lab, and there's no different setup in the organization. Whatever tools we learn over here, those are the same tools that you'll be learning elsewhere. I mean, using elsewhere as well. Okay. Again, sometimes what happens is they are alternative. Okay. So like Nessus, there's other tools also. There's something like Nexpose. This is another vulnerability scanning tool, Nexpose. Okay. So again, this is just an alternative. It's like you learn a car, doesn't matter how to drive on an Innova. They might give you what do you say, Land Cruiser also. Okay, same. It's a car. Okay. So the application vendor might change, but the application is same.
Okay. Yeah, in going on the real time, like how basically like how the candidates means they will be like they will be checking what should be the like maximum knowledge they are expecting from the candidate for this cybersecurity job role.
Are you talking for joining the course or for job role, Mahesh?
Yeah, like going, for example, how the jobs in the market.
Again, once you do the course CEH, you can start applying for jobs such as penetration tester or SOC analyst or junior pen tester. Depends on your experience. Okay.
Okay, okay,
For a
okay.
pen tester, the things that we are learning in CEH is more than sufficient. If you're planning on going for other domains like web application pen testing and so, for that you would have to do other courses as web application pen testing or Splunk and so on for SOC analysis. Okay.
Okay.
So for the timing for this course, you can start applying for VABT, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing job roles.
Yeah, yeah. With this course, we can start a career in the cybersecurity path. If I am
Definitely.
understanding correctly. Okay.
Yeah, CH is designed in such a way where again, this is the main primary certification, the first stepping certification that is needed to be done mandatorily to enter the cybersecurity domain. Okay.
Okay. Got it, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions for anyone else? Okay, assuming there's no other questions, guys. Paras has said no as well. So yeah, that's that, guys. Nothing further to discuss on my end. So this is the demo. I hope everything was fine. I hope the audio and video were perfectly fine. There were no issues with that. So sorry if there's some background disturbance on my end. There's some procession going on the road over here. So, but anyways, again, we'll take the class tomorrow again at the same time. So if you're interested, you can join the class and we'll learn the basics of networking in tomorrow's session. Okay, like what are IP addresses, what is IPv4, what are IPv6, whatnot. Okay. So yeah, that's that, guys. Nothing further to discuss. Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you so much. If there's any feedback, I completely appreciate that. So let me know if there's anything to improve. So yeah, that's right. Have a good day and see you soon. Thank you, guys. Thank you for giving your time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.